Your once entertaining Pirates or briefly entertaining Pirates, where are they? They are gone right now. The same old story of your battling Buccos that maybe you expected this season have returned, and the Pirates lose yet again. I believe now 8 in a row. They lose 2 on this day, losing both games of a doubleheader against the Cardinals, and this close to being no hit. And if they were no hit in this game, they definitely weren't going to win this one, as the Cardinals win this second game 9-1 and win game 1 3-1. I'm Mike Asti. This is your Pirates postgame show here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and for Pittsburgh Baseball Now. The NS9 guys have a night off, so I'm going to sprinkle in and fill in and pinch hit, like the Pirates were able to get a pinch hit They're only of the night on this one, as they avoid a no-hitter, but really that's the only positive of these two games, and really the only positive of these games recently. Joe Smeltzer of our network will be joining me here to discuss this game and kind of what's been going on with the Pirates. So, Joe, to kind of start right there, and it's been a losing skid since the Pirates swept the Dodgers. They won a series against Arizona. It then was really brutally rough against the Braves. It's been bad against the Cardinals. And of course, it's contending teams. But again, you sweep the Dodgers, you feel like you could have a chance against anybody else. And yet it's just been a rough road offensively for Pittsburgh, even when they're getting quality starts. We've seen some from Mitch Keller. JT Brubaker certainly has been worse in other starts than what he was in game 1 of this series. Not the case for Wilson, but they've had okay starts, at least. Quintana, again, pitching a gem in the mix there, not mattering. So just an overlying question, what's happened to this offense and what can they do maybe to try to improve things? Because they've tinkered the lineup. They brought up guys from the minors. We've seen Swaggerty and company. He's obviously not hit when he's had opportunities, but this offense has just been asleep at the wheel now for a week or so since they actually were playing well and giving some reason for entertainment, but it's just not been the case since then.
Yeah, and it doesn't help, Mike, that Brian Reynolds, although he's shown flashes recently, hasn't been the player that he was in 2021 for the most part this year.
Right.
Brian Hayes is struggling a lot, more than we're used to him seeing. But I think overall, Mike, while the pitchers, as you mentioned, everybody except for Bryce Wilson has shown some flashes of good work on the mound. Offensively, I just don't think the talent's there, and I don't think having Travis Swaggerty back up, which I think he will be at some point, I don't think that would fix it. I don't think calling up O'Neal Cruz, which has been the key storyline in the minors, I don't think that will fix it. I think it might be kind of a boring answer, but I just don't think there's a lot of firepower in this Pirates lineup, and that's being reflected by the results we're seeing right now. And that kind of ties into my overall view of this 2022 team, is that I get why people in the city are upset. Most Pirate fans, I think, above the age of 40 at this point are almost naturally cynical. But what I'm a little confused about is by the portion of the fan base and even some in the Pittsburgh media who express disgust or are appalled by what's going on with this team, because I don't know how you could say that these Pirates are significantly worse off or even worse off at all than what we expected them to be before the season. Talking about this 9-game losing streak in particular, of the 9 losses, 7 of them were to a team that just won the World Series and is still very good. And also to St. Louis, who has World Series aspirations and is now in first place in the NL Central. And all 7 are on the road, which doesn't help. And when you're a team playing for 2023 or even 2024, going against teams with title aspirations right now this year, those things can happen, and they certainly have happened to the Pirates on this road trip. So overall, I get the frustration. I don't think Derek Shelton's a good manager. I haven't really been high on him since he started in 2020. I don't think the best players are necessarily the ones that are in the lineup every day. Yu Chang, hint. But overall, the simple and maybe the boring thing to say about these Pirates right now is that it's a bad baseball team, and I don't think this roster playing poorly is something that should bring about the rage that I think it does in some people in this city.
Yeah, it is odd. I mean, honestly, you should kind of expect this. It's not too surprising. The aberration or the surprise might have been sweeping the Dodgers, winning a season series against the Dodgers, and then following it up with a series wins against Arizona, just for the fact that I was expecting the Pirates to turn around and kind of ruin the momentum from sweeping the Dodgers and then lose right away. So to be able to carry that on and win another series. And I think the only frustration, Joe, is nobody really, I don't think, was expecting this team to win that much more or go anywhere, and certainly not be a pennant contender by any means like these teams they're playing are. But they have shown flashes of at least being more entertaining. They have been more entertaining most of the year until recently. So they got really the crescendo of entertainment with the sweep of the Dodgers, and they've been more entertaining even in losses earlier in the year. And then you get this string of 8+ games that has just been really bad. The offense has just been anemic, and we've seen the offense produce with a similar lineup against solid pitching against good teams. So if you can do it once, why can't you do it twice? And I think that's where the frustration has to come from because, yeah, we've seen different tweaks to this lineup. We've seen young players come up. Swaggerty has not been hitting when he was up here, so it doesn't matter. I'd imagine O'Neal Cruz is going to come up soon. Others have come up and done nothing. And Michael Chavis and others have kind of shown flashes. But what do you really think of them overall? And then you mentioned Brian Reynolds. The only pushback there is Brian Reynolds. He struggled at the beginning of this season. He then picked it up a little bit. He actually has been hitting better than pretty much anybody else on this team in recent weeks, with 1 or 2 hits in most of these games and a couple home runs mixed in. Granted, still only hitting 251 on the year, and Hayes hit most of this season until recently. So it's not anything they're not doing, but there's just not nearly enough around them offensively. There's just no depth to the lineup. Now, that does transition me into a lineup question because, Joe, we've seen multiple variations of this lineup. We're talking about young guys coming up. We're talking about Hayes and Brian Reynolds. And one of the options, it always has been Hayes to lead off and then Brian Reynolds. And maybe they're your 1-2, they're your best hitters, but then it certainly creates a downflow of pretty much nothing behind them. We've seen them get mixed around and sprinkled around. Vogelbach now back in there, and he's hitting cleanup, but he's not getting on base, so you keep him there. What lineup do you maybe prefer? Is there anything you can do just lineup wise? I know this team isn't really going anywhere, and these players you can't all of a sudden ask to get better mid-season. This is kind of what you're working with. But what lineup do you like? Because we've seen a few, none of them are working.
Yeah. I actually wrote out kind of a rough draft, and there's a million options for the Pirates lineup. When you're a team that doesn't have all that many good players, you're going to throw a lot of stuff at the wall, and the Pirates have thrown a lot of stuff at the wall and will continue to throw stuff. As we sit now, June 14th, throughout the rest of the season, there's going to be a lot of lineup variations. So, but I think my best lineup right now is I like what Tucupita Marcano has done out of the leadoff spot. That's been a bright spot. 2 and 3, Hayes and Reynolds. Not much explanation needed there. Vogelbach as the DH in the 4 spot. He slowed down from the beginning. Seventh, O'Neal Cruz, whenever he gets up, I think seven's a good kind of default spot to throw him in. Since we don't really know what he has at the big league level yet. Hitting eighth, whoever is catching, it really doesn't matter. They don't have a big league catcher. And then hitting ninth, either Cal Mitchell or Travis Swaggerty or somebody, one of those rookies there. So that's my rough draft, and there's going to be a million variations throughout between now and the rest of the season. I said before, with so little firepower, whatever lineup they throw out there isn't going to score a lot of runs most nights, and as a result, you're going to see a lot of new faces interchange and just a lot of stuff thrown at the wall for Derek Shelton because he doesn't have really any other option but to experiment on a weekly or even a nightly basis.
Yeah, Joe Smeltzer joining us here of our Sports Now family of networks. The Pirates lose this doubleheader 3-1, then 9-1. They almost get no hit in game 2 of this doubleheader, as I mentioned earlier, giving up that hit to the Cardinals off a pinch hit at bat as Miles Mikolas almost ends up with that no-hitter. And again, the Pirates offense has just been nowhere to be found in the past week plus after really showing up in a big time sweep of the Dodgers, getting some excitement at least. I did some shows on maybe are you excited? Well, no, there's no reason to be excited. This team wasn't going to go anywhere. At least there was some entertainment to watch at that point. The most entertainment the Pirates have offered all year, unfortunately for the fans, required them to stay up till 3 a.m. Fortunately for us, this post-game show doesn't require us to stay up that late because it's a regular traditional 7 p.m. or so start time, even while they're in St. Louis, and yet it doesn't matter. They lose both games. So that does take me to the mound, though, because as the NS9 guys have been hitting on, and really as is true, and I even said in the lead-in of the show, while this team has been losing, while they're no longer entertaining really to watch, and the offense has been completely in the witness protection program, the pitching has actually improved. And it's almost an underrated story because it doesn't matter when you're not winning games. But Mitch Keller, who we know has had tons of hype and people are waiting for him to finally show something, he's actually put a string of starts together that have actually been decent. JT Brubaker, not nearly the number one that they hoped for. Who knows if they're going to ever get any value for him with his age. But he pitched better in game one of this series than he's pitched recently. And granted, that's a pretty low bar because he's pitched really, really bad, but still has improved. Quintana has pitched consistently okay recently. Obviously, Bryce Wilson did not pitch well in game two of this series here and of this doubleheader. But any bright spot, Joe, in terms of the pitching actually improving? And is there anything out of the pitching performances that shows you, okay, they don't have obviously an ace, but this guy can be a part of the rotation whenever they win. Maybe more confidence in Mitch Keller, or they can get something for this pitcher in terms of a trade. Any bright spots off of the pitching performances, even though they have been in losses?
Absolutely, Mike. I actually think that if you take Bryce Wilson, who has just been an absolute dumpster fire, take him out of the equation, pretty much all of the Pirates' regular starters have shown something this year. Brubaker, we talked about, he had a good May and has pitched pretty well on this road trip. Pitched 7 innings in Atlanta and then pitched all right in game one of the doubleheader today in St. Louis. Then you have Thompson, who was also very good in the month of May. Jose Quintana, I think, could be maybe the Pirates' top trade chip, in July.
Yeah. He's arguably been the best pitcher all year in terms of consistency. Sure.
Yeah, I agree. And then Mitch Keller, who will take whatever with a grain of salt because there's been a lot of times where Mitch Keller's looked good and then fallen back off the cliff. But I really think he might be turning a corner because he got sent to the bullpen, and that can be a wake-up call for some guys. So maybe Mitch Keller, he's done some things with his delivery to make him a better pitcher. Maybe he's finally turning a corner. So you break it down, that's 4 guys that have shown promise. And then we won't talk about Bryce Wilson. But overall, I think that this pitching staff has succeeded expectations. And I know Oscar Marine's gotten a lot of flack over his 3 years as pitching coach, but maybe he deserves a little vindication for now because the starting rotation, I don't know if they've drastically overachieved, but I think it's been closer to an overachieving season for the Pirates starters this far than it has been to an underachieving season for sure.
Yeah, and Contreras pitching to finalize this series.
I didn't even reference him. Yeah, I have high hopes for him. He has the best stuff, and I think he definitely has ace potential, as a lot of Pirate fans do. So.
Okay, yeah, and he goes tomorrow night. So kind of thoughts on him, maybe. You're kind of talking about him already in terms of what do you expect to see out of him? Can he be that stopper that kind of stops the bleeding here for the Pirates to avoid this being 9 straight losses, avoid this being a series sweep loss to the Cardinals after losing these 2 in this doubleheader? He's 1-1 with a 2.57 ERA in his brief appearances this year, but again, has shown something. Are you really that high on him based on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, and I was high on him coming in to the majors too, because he was dominating in the minors, obviously, before getting called up. A lot of people think he should have been called up and in this rotation earlier than he was. But to me, Mike, there's few things better with a bad baseball team than a starting pitcher who you're excited to see. Like, for example, I went to the game last Saturday when they played the Diamondbacks and won on Sawinski's walk-off, and I had friends going, and I went out of my way to text them, "Hey, Contreras is pitching," and that just adds excitement.
Right.
You want to go to the ballpark and see a guy work, and he delivered. He pitched, I think, 6 2/3, allowed just 1 run, which came in on a wild pitch. But yeah, he's I don't know if you can say a team that's as bad as the Pirates are really have a stopper, because you know the the struggles aren't really going to stop for more than 1 or 2 days. But um, if the Pirates were winning, he'd be the stopper, and I think he's definitely, when you look for reasons to be excited with this baseball team, which there aren't a whole lot of right now, having a guy who you can circle on the calendar every 5 days and say, "Hey, I want to watch this game on TV because Contreras is pitching," or "I want to buy a ticket maybe because Contreras is pitching." That's a very good thing for a team that really needs shots in the arm whenever they can get it.
Yeah, there's not much, if you're a Pirate fan, to say inject this in my veins this year. I'll tell you that. Maybe Contreras pitching is pretty much it, or those brief starts by Mitch Keller, maybe something out of the bullpen. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Joe Smeltzer here, Mike Asti, our Pirates post-game show for Pittsburgh Baseball Now, and of course here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. We did go live with this after a doubleheader, losing both games 3-1, 9-1, almost no hit in the second one. So I wasn't expecting much action, but we actually do have a chatter here. And Dave simply puts it, they got a hit. What else do you want? So yeah, they got a hit. Honestly, I was telling you off the air before the show, I was kind of rooting for the no-hitter. It kind of, it'd be cool to cover that, since clearly this game was well out of hand. They don't get no hit. They did win a game when they got no hit earlier in the year, as weird as that sounds. So they weren't going to win this one either way, but they do get a pinch hit at bat as Mitchell gets one, and they end up giving up that one hit. And again, they now try to stop the bleeding tomorrow. Who knows? But they do have a pitcher that they would want to come up there in Contreras if you're going to try to get the bleeding to stop. And then you have the Giants and Cubs and those series to come. I want to ask you a couple more things here while we're still on. Number one, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, and obviously there's been an ascension of youth. And you're going to have that when you have a season that's not expected to go anywhere. And maybe there was some excitement there, but regardless of it, you're going to bring up those young players, Swaggerty, etc. They're going to come up and you're going to see what you have in them. O'Neill Cruz, one that Pirate fans are still waiting for. Many wanted him before the season. Obviously, that was a financial decision. Now there's nothing financial that's holding you back. When do you want to see O'Neill Cruz?
Well, the rumor is, and this was tweeted by Pirates of the Allegheny, that he's going to be called up to play against the Giants Friday. Obviously, we won't know that.
It wouldn't shock me at this point, right?
No, it wouldn't shock me ever. We're getting past that Super 2 time.
Right.
I think that's believable. I don't know what the source is there or anything like that, so we'll just have to wait and see. And this is not me reporting, by the way. This was tweeted by Pirates of the Allegheny.
I got you. So. Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, because he has.
Do you like that then, or do you want to wait longer? Because I guess the concern for some is lack of position. Maybe they're not loving him playing shortstop, even though there could be a spot there for the Pirates with Castro and others not stabilizing it. And then, of course, he didn't really have a solid minor league start to this year.
Yeah, I don't love Cruz as a shortstop either. He has made a ton of errors. I can't think of the number off my head, but over his time in the minors, he has not been very good defensively. But, I mean, Yu Chang is your shortstop right now. So I think the fact that that is happening and has been happening for the past several weeks, I don't see how you could trot Yu Chang out there and then say that Cruz can't play short. That just doesn't add up to me. So the short answer is I think it's time. I'd like to see him, if the rumors are true, I'd like to see him play Friday. We probably won't know until Thursday at the earliest, but I don't see really any real reason to keep O'Neill Cruz down for much longer, because you gotta inject something into this lineup, and he would inject something momentarily, if nothing else, and then hopefully a lot more than momentarily with his play. So
yeah, and obviously he would inject some excitement, to say the least, which is what Pirate fans would want, and they thought they had it for a while, and that's certainly been gone. Joe Smeltzer, Mike Asti here, wrapping things up now after a doubleheader loss for the Pirates, 3-1, then 9-1, and almost no hit in that second game. You did talk earlier about not supporting Derek Shelton, and there's not really reason to say that anyone should have major support. There's nothing to love in terms of wins and losses, but granted, when he was hired, it was clear it was going to be part of a rebuilding period. Certainly the 2020 season wasn't expected to go anywhere. I don't think anyone really could have judged him by wins and losses, maybe to this point, because maybe you wanted to see a little bit of improvement this year. Why are you totally out on Derek Shelton? Just for the fact that I guess my only devil's advocate stance on it is it's not really fair to judge him off of what he's been dealt with these past few seasons in terms of Hayes, Reynolds, and Reynolds has been hot and cold every other year. And then no one else that's really been consistently a part of the team and really, really solid in terms of contributing to the team. So he probably was always a bridge manager. But what makes you so out on him only a couple years in with a team that was destined to lose no matter what? With anybody really the manager, you put Tony La Russa to manage this team, I feel like they're not going to really be that much better.
Oh, you're probably referring to 1996 Tony La Russa, not 2022.
Well,
Tony
to be fair, yes, I am referring. I'm referring to Cardinals Tony La Russa for the Cardinals fans, or maybe even before. Yeah, the Hall of Famer that is Tony La Russa. Maybe not as much recently. Yeah, true. Any manager that you want to name though that
right.
has had success recently, I feel like, what are you going to do with this Pirates team?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I don't know if I'm totally out on Shelton yet, just because, as you said, he doesn't have a lot to work with right now. But I don't think he's making the most of what he has.
Okay.
I think he has managed the bullpen well at points this year. That 3 games to 1 series win in Chicago was great with how he managed the bullpen. I love how he's used David Bednar before the 9th inning. That was something that Clint Hurdle never really did with his stopper relievers. But overall, I don't like the lineup construction. As I referenced before, I don't like guys like Yu Chang playing every single day. I don't like Anthony Banda being used out of the bullpen as often as he is. And I think overall, the thing that really bugs me, and this is a lot of modern baseball managers, so this really isn't a Derek Shelton exclusive, is that when guys are dealing, he pulls them. Zach Thompson Saturday, great example. He gets pulled. The Pirates give up 8 runs, I think, in the 7th inning, and a 4-2 lead turns into a 10-4 deficit, then a loss.
Yeah.
So when leaving JT Brubaker in for an extra 7th inning is thought of as a big deal with the Pirates broadcast and with the fan base, I think that's a sign that Shelton's hook, if you will, is much too quicker than it should be. So to answer your question, Mike, yes, the talent's not there, but also I don't think Shelton has helped. I think he's hurt more than he's helped with his in-game decision-making.
Yeah, and when you know you're not going to win, you do have to look at in-game decision-making, and I'm assuming that's what Cherington's looking for, and different minor things like that the management's looking for to see if he's either a bridge manager or can still be there whenever this team would turn it around. Yeah, I mean, again, there's not much to love, but it's hard to also hold much against him. And Derek Shelton was the only thing I guess I can defend him on. Derek Shelton has been honest, and we kind of always like that in media. He said it before the season. He said it last year. He's going to have a quick hook. He doesn't have an ace, doesn't really even have a 1, 2, or 3 in our traditional rotation. So he's going to have a quick hook. He's had a quick hook. We've seen a Hall of Famer throw in a perfect game and get hooked before that game was over earlier in the year. So it is a new modern thing that's not just about Derek Shelton, but he's even a quicker hook than anybody else. And he has, I actually talked with John Parada about this, who, of course, covers the Pirates closely and is a long tenured beat writer.
That should be a good ball game.
Yeah, that JT Brubaker is somebody there that, and I do, it's always a good ball game, except for recently with the Pittsburgh Pirates. But he was talking about how JT maybe has a little bit of a different hook in comparison to every other pitcher because, again, there's no ace, but they kind of had maybe him to be the de facto one, or at least trying to get some value for him. They're kind of giving him more time to figure something out, and they really don't care about his stats because they just want to kind of see if something can happen. So maybe he's treated a little bit differently, which is why he hung in there. But yeah, it's a quick hook. It's annoying at times. And yeah, this team's going nowhere fast. And his personality is not exactly going to give you the entertainment. So if you're not seeing on the field, I don't know if you see it in the press conference. I don't know where you're going to get it if you're a Pirate fan. So all you can hope for is tomorrow to stop the bleeding, and then Giants, Cubs, series that won't be easy by any means, as the Pirates now in the midst of a losing streak after losing both games of this doubleheader against the Cardinals. So they've been losing to good teams, but they also beat good teams before. So you try to make some sense of it. Joe Smeltzer, Mike Asti here. That'll do it for this edition of Pittsburgh Postgame here on PSL and Pittsburgh Baseball. Now the Pirates lose 3-1 with JT Brubaker on the mound, and then they lose 9-1 and almost no hit in game 2 of this series. So the pitching has kind of been there. It's an underrated story. I don't know if enough people are talking about it. The pitching has kind of been there. Some of these pitchers have shown something, but as we talked about all through this show, the offense has just not been there. They've been completely asleep at the wheel, and the lineup configuration has not mattered because they've tinkered. They've tried every different configuration you could imagine, including moving Hayes and Reynolds around. It has not done anything. They cannot score. They cannot hit. Hope and pray for tomorrow night. That's really the best I can offer for Pirate fans right now.